Now from 4029 News, this is On the Record.
Thank you so much for joining us for our weekly program, 4029 News On the Record. I'm Yuna Lee. It's a big election year and the clock is ticking, and our area is starting to see candidates visiting more often. One candidate spent a few days with voters in Rogers in Northwest Arkansas. Earlier this month, the Democratic nominee running for the U.S. Senate seat currently occupied by U.S. Senator Tom Cotton sat down with 4029's Allison Wise. She is one of three running for that position. Senator Cotton has two challengers, Democratic nominee Hallie Schoffner, as we mentioned, and Libertarian nominee Jeff Wadlin. We will hear from all three candidates, and we start with Allison's interview with Schoffner.
Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Allison Wise, and I am joined by the U.S. Senate candidate for the Democratic Party, Hallie Schoffner, who is running in the 2026 United States Senate election for Arkansas. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And we just have a couple questions for you today.
Sure.
First, you've kind of been making some rounds, talking to people of Arkansas, talking to local voters. What are some of the concerns, some of the things that you've been hearing from people lately?
Well, and you know, I've been in Northwest Arkansas for the last 2 days, still here for another day. You know, it's really the same here as it is everywhere else, honestly. Whether I'm in a Democratic County Party meeting, or I'm in a farm shop or a diner, or here in Northwest Arkansas, people are worried about the same things. It is, I can't afford my groceries, I can't afford my gas, I want my kid to go to a good school. It's hard to go to the doctor, it's hard to afford medications. And what we know about Arkansas is that we're the hungriest state in the country. We're the second sickest. We're the fourth poorest. And when I'm traveling around the state, these are the concerns that Arkansans have. And at the same time, they're deeply concerned by the fact that they don't feel like they have politicians in Washington who are listening to them.
Let's move to the war in Iran. There's going to be some, extended turmoil there. The president has made mention of not wanting to negotiate with Iran anymore. How do you think the war in Iran is being handled?
I mean, when I travel around the state, people do not ask me to explain what's happening in Iran. They ask, why on earth is my gas near $4 a gallon? That's what they're asking me. And I understand that question because I'm from the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. I mean, I'm from a place where you got to drive 30 minutes to an hour to get anywhere, to get to work or to the grocery store or to the doctor's office. Now that we have rural hospitals closing, now that schools are consolidating, people are driving even farther than they used to. And we're looking down the barrel of gas prices that are going to stay elevated for a long period of time. And we can't handle that. My question is, why not at any point has Tom Cotton not stood up and said, the people of Arkansas are suffering. I'm from a rural state. People need lower gas prices. How are we going to get that done? But he hasn't asked that question. All he's done is go on Fox News or any cable news to talk about why going to war with Iran is so great without having actually made the case to the people of Arkansas.
And you have, I think, obviously a connection, an affinity, a passion for farmers in this state. What is your hope if elected? How can you sort of ensure, longevity for farm families in Arkansas and for the agriculture business in our state?
Yeah, and there's a lot to be done. Obviously, I'm not exaggerating when I say that agriculture as an industry is in free fall. It is actively collapsing. Our rice industry is perhaps in the most trouble it's been since the 1980s. I was talking to a friend of mine in Northeast Arkansas. He's a soybean, corn, and rice grower. And we had this long conversation about the possibility of growing something else. Right now we have a national policy that pigeonholes farmers into growing only a few very high volume, low value commodity crops. And wouldn't it be great if Arkansas farmers could produce food that we could sell back into the community? We're the hungriest state in the country. It makes sense for us to be able to grow things here, feed our own people, make farmers money, and give kids in our public schools access to affordable, fresh, healthy food.
Last question here. Anything else that you want to say to Arkansas voters? I mean, we are a red state. We're primarily a red state. For people who are wavering, I guess, in their vote, for people who have not made a decision yet, what would you like to say to those voters about just sort of your elevator pitch about what you hope to do if elected and get to Washington?
I mean, as I've traveled around the state, the story that I hear the most often is, I am working harder than ever, and I'm still falling behind. And it's not because I feel like I've failed, it's because the system is rigged against me. And Arkansas isn't doing well right now. We all know someone who has that story. And I am not asking anybody to become a Democrat or to switch parties. I'm just asking, can't we do a heck of a lot better than what we're doing right now? And if Arkansans believe that, then we should vote for the person, not the party.
We'll get back to the U.S. Senate race in just a moment, but first, 4029 is getting you ready to get your kids back in the classroom. In the coming weeks, we'll be sitting down with local superintendents, medical experts, and state education officials so you can get your family prepared. So stay tuned for more of that coverage. We know that one thing on every parent's mind is safety, how students are kept safe in the classroom. One local sheriff's office working with some of our area's smaller school districts to do just that. 4029's Brett Raines is in Sequoyah County with how the partnership provides school resource officers for those who need.
The Moffett superintendent says that without the partnership with the Sequoyah County Sheriff's Office, that many small school districts would not be able to afford a full-time school resource officer to be inside the schools every day.
It is a very fulfilling position. Them learning that law enforcement officers are actually pretty good guys.
Before kids are back in class, Sequoyah County school resource officers are in on their off days, visiting schools that they might not be at all the time, just in case they have to help out during an emergency.
You have to prepare for this. We have to carry weapons for that unforeseen instance.
Robert Jones has been a school resource officer for 4 years. He says the job is much more than patrolling the halls and campus.
Communication is a big part of helping prevent a catastrophic event. Sometimes they'll just want to talk and just be, just to listen to them and let them vent and tell you their problems and issues of what might have happened the night before.
I've had kids here and now grandkids here.
Stacy Stevenson teaches reading and English to Moffett 7th and 8th graders. She's been in the classroom for 22 years. And when it comes to school resource officers, Stevenson says,
Vital and very important, especially the middle school kids who sometimes could see a police officer in a negative light. If they get to know them, they get to have a relationship here with them at the school, that shines a positive light on them, and they can see that police officers aren't just here for negative reasons.
The way everything has changed in our society, it's huge to have a deputy in every school.
In Sequoyah County, school districts have partnered with the Sheriff's Office to help keep students and staff safe by sharing the cost of school resource officers. Right now, there's 9 full-time and 3 part-time school resource officers who are also Sequoyah County deputies. All of them have previous law enforcement experience.
That's more officers than a lot of our smaller agencies around the county and around the surrounding counties have in their whole department.
Sheriff Larry Lane says through Oklahoma Security Improvement Grants, schools reimburse the Sheriff's Office for officers' salaries. Lane estimates it's about half of the total expense. He says it allows small districts like Moffett with a little less than 400 K through 8th grade students to have their own full-time school resource officer.
Startup of a new employee, new deputy is going to be $100,000 right off the bat with the car and uniforms and training and everything. There's no way they could afford to have another person there. They need to spend that money on teachers and the kids.
What is the police officer for?
Keep us safe.
The sheriff says some good news is that starting this year here in Oklahoma, legislators have now made this school security grant funding permanent. In Sequoyah County, Brett Raines, 4029 News.
Brett, thanks. Of course, you can tune into 4029 News for back-to-school coverage. You can also see our back-to-school guide on 4029tv.com.
Still to come are interviews with the Republican and Libertarians running for the U.S. Senate seat in November. Joining us now on 4029 News on the Record, Jeff Wadlin of Bentonville, running for U.S. Senate as the Libertarian candidate. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us today once again to talk about what's happening in Washington. The big story this week happening in the nation's capital is the efforts to get more funding for Iran and defense. Talk to me about how you feel about that bill and proposal.
Sure. Well, like I talked about last time, the Iran war has just turned into a quagmire.
And we wouldn't be in this place if Tom Cotton hadn't scuttled the JCPOA to begin with. And of course, yes, now they need more funding, and we're running a government where we have endless deficits and endless debts. And Tom Cotton wants to increase the military budget to $1.5 trillion. And we need a strong defense, but we also need an affordable defense, and we need to not bankrupt the country to do that. And there are, unfortunately, some things that we need to deal with Iran. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, but we do need to extract ourselves from this conflict. So we need to turn up the sanctions and keep on the blockade, but we need to probably stop bombing them and certainly not bomb civilian infrastructure like bridges and desalination plants.
Okay, let's talk about immigration. You mentioned Tom Cotton, the person who is currently in the U.S. Senate. You are hoping to take his position. There's another person, a Democrat, Hallie Schoffner, hoping to take that seat as well. She had mentioned her thoughts on defunding immigrations and customs enforcement.
Sure.
What is the best way to control our immigration and protect our country?
Sure.
What are your thoughts on what she said and what's happening in the country?
Yeah, absolutely. So we certainly should not defund ICE. ICE plays an important role, but ICE can execute its mission without chaos and cruelty. And it's interesting for a Democrat like Hallie Schoffner to say that we should defund ICE, because remember that during the Obama administration, he deported more people in each of his 2 terms than Trump did during his first term. So it is possible to use ICE in a responsible way, deport the people that shouldn't be here, particularly people that are violent, and do it without chaos and cruelty in the streets and without violating the constitutional rights of our citizens. So we need strong borders. And we need to increase legal immigration. We are very blessed in this country to be a nation of immigrants, and immigration is very important to the growth and economic success of our country. And we don't have the problem that a lot of other first world countries do with low fertility rates that are causing their populations to decline. We don't have that problem because of immigration, but we need legal immigration. An example of that also is a bill that was recently passed to increase the number of H-2A visas for farm workers. And so that is just an indicator of the conflict that we have, where we need immigrants, but we don't want undocumented immigrants that are putting downward pressure, particularly on low-income service-type jobs. We need to protect those markets to keep employment high and wages high, but we also need legal pathways to get the folks in to do the jobs that need to get done, but we need to have some controls on that to make sure we're bringing in the right number of people and the right types of people.
Also this week in Washington, the president said we need more tariffs for Canada in particular. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, tariffs in general are just bad. We should not be implementing tariffs willy-nilly in a retaliatory way and then using cronyism in order to cut deals for certain people to get out of their tariffs. That's just not the right way to use tariffs. Sure, we can use tariffs in certain targeted ways if there are other governments like China who are subsidizing particular industries that are a threat to our domestic industries, but just implementing tariffs, particularly on our closest allies like Canada, just because we feel like being vindictive, is not a sound strategy. And then, by the way, we're upsetting our allies. And so when we turn around and then ask them for help, for example, with the military issue in the Middle East, well, they're not going to be very up to coming to our aid if we're, poking our thumb in their eye with tariffs.
Anything else happening in Washington this week that you've been thinking about in particular?
Well, like I mentioned, the H-2A was another interesting topic that caught my eye. And just today I saw that that oil is back to $100 a barrel. So yeah, unfortunately, Washington, the two-party system, has got us more focused on culture wars and turning neighbor against neighbor in order to try to get votes. And then all they deliver for us is gridlock. And that's why I'm in this race, is to give people a third centrist choice in the middle for common sense solutions that serve us all. I'm not interested in the culture wars at all. And I think that's resounding on the campaign trail. And I'm building a large, broad coalition to beat Tom Cotton in November.
All right, Jeff Wadlin, thank you so much for joining us on 4029 News on the Record. Jeff, the U.S. Senate Libertarian candidate running against Tom Cotton and Hallie Schoffner in November. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back.
Now back to 4029 News on the Record.
Welcome back to 4029 News on the Record. U.S. Senator Tom Cotton joins us now from Washington, D.C. as we record this on July 23rd. Senator, thank you so much for joining us today. There's a lot of development in the war in Iran. We're now hearing that President Trump is considering a, quote, massive attack on Iran. What is the latest with the strikes and negotiations?
Well, thanks, Una, for having me on. It's good to be back on with you. I think President Trump has said that it's clear Iran can't be trusted. We entered into a 60-day ceasefire with them to try to negotiate a larger deal. I myself was skeptical of even that agreement. I didn't think that Iran could ever be trusted. These are revolutionary fanatics. It's been proven beyond a doubt now that they're not interested in any kind of deal, short-term or long-term. They keep shooting up ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and now their terrorist proxies are shooting ships in the Red Sea as well. I frankly wish we would do now what I wish we had done in April, which is just finish the job militarily, deliver the final blow to their missiles and their drones, and then keep the blockade in place and keep the strait open. That'll make sure that gas and diesel prices stay low for Arkansans. It'll protect our troops in the region, and it'll bring an end to this matter. I think we could have brought an end to it in April. I think the president wanted to try to go down the path of broader negotiation. He's clearly exasperated with the situation, and I hope we finish the job now and bring it to an end.
And it's been an expensive war, too. And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has said that the cost of the war in Iran is now more than $36 billion. The U.S. House also advanced a huge funding bill to fund the Iranian war. So how much is actually needed? Where is that money going to exactly?
Well, Secretary Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, said that it was around $37 billion. I think we're probably going to need more than that, not just for the Iran war, but to make sure that our own munition stockpiles are fully topped off. That's not just keeping us safe, that's supporting our friends in places like the Middle East, supporting Ukraine, making sure that we can deter China. A lot of that money is invested in America and frankly right here, in Arkansas. If you look at the Camden industrial plant where we build so many of the munitions that are being used in the Middle East. That's not the only thing in the legislation, though. It also has some important, more additional relief for our farmers who are still struggling mightily. So I can't say that we're going to take up the House bill exactly as it is and pass it. I think most senators, myself included, think that we should probably be doing a little bit more for our farmers and a little bit more for our military. But right now we have the Democrats totally blockading all action in the Senate. It's not just blocking this supplemental funding bill. They blocked the annual defense bill that covers, for instance, pay raises for our troops. They blocked the annual intelligence bill that comes out of my intelligence committee. Right now they're letting their hatred for Donald Trump overcome their or any commitment to our national security, and that needs to stop.
Well, the president this week announced more tariffs on Canada. Is this needed, Senator?
Unfortunately, Canada has been treating a lot of American producers very unfairly, and it's been a long time coming to get Canada's attention. I would rather than imposing these tariffs, of course, just have Canada give a better deal, for instance, to America and our producers. That's the point of these tariffs. The point is to get Canada to treat us like the friend that we want to be with Canadians. We want to have open and fair trade with Canada. But if Canada doesn't take our legitimate concerns seriously, then I think the president is right to try to get their attention. Hopefully it won't be long lasting. Hopefully Canada will drop its trade barriers, and then we can reduce or eliminate these tariffs.
Senator Cotton, anything else I'm forgetting to ask you about that's big happening this week in Washington?
No, I think that's covering the waterfront. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator Cotton, for joining us on 4029 News on the Record. We'll be back.
Thank you.
It's almost time for the 14th annual 4029 of the Arkansas CW Backpack Giveaway. It's Saturday, August 1st from 9 a.m. to noon. This is video from some of our past events. It's going to be held at the Walmart Supercenter on Pleasant Crossing Boulevard in Rogers. We are giving away 1,000 brand new backpacks filled with school supplies to students. Free while supplies last. We'll see you then. Thanks so much for joining us for 4029 News on the Record. Record this week. We want to know what issues are most important to you as the voter. Email us at ontherecord@4029tv.com with questions and concerns for area lawmakers. You can also visit our website, 4029tv.com. We have more political coverage. We'll see you next week, same place, same time, as we continue our conversations with area newsmakers. Thanks for joining us.